of the things a lot of gamers have come to expect in recent times is that gaming consoles aren't cheap, especially portable gaming consoles. And with the Nintendo Switch 2, one of the most important accessories if you're someone who travels or takes your Switch 2 outside of your home is a proper case. And in recent times, I reviewed the Koops P2, which I consider an exceptional case for the Nintendo Switch 2, but I hadn't really delved too deeply into the alternatives. And a company called Cabletime reached out and asked me to try out their protective case for my Nintendo Switch 2. And in this video, I'm gonna go over whether or not this budget-friendly case is worth getting for your Nintendo Switch 2 or skipping entirely. So let's take a look. So to start, when it gets to unboxing this protective case for your Nintendo Switch 2, I'm not gonna say there's anything ultra special or fancy about the packaging, but taking everything out, I thought everything was packaged appropriately. We had like a nice little plastic sleeve and of course like a foam insert between the case itself, just so everything kind of stuck together and didn't get damaged in shipping. Now, one of the things about this case that I actually like quite a bit, and I'll actually say I like better than the P2 case that I reviewed from Koops, is that this has a little pass-through so you can actually use the kickstand through the backside of the case, which is something that might seem minor, but I didn't necessarily like the angles that you got with the Koops P2 with its own integrated kickstand, and much preferred the angles that came with the Nintendo Switch 2's actual kickstand. So that's a nice little touch here. One thing though that I will note, and this is something that I've noticed some gamers come to expect or want out of their Nintendo Switch 2 cases when I was originally doing my research on the Koops P2, is that people like the detachable Joy-Con covers. And I'm not saying that's a deal breaker for everyone, but this doesn't have that. This is all in one. So in other words, the case that attaches directly to the Nintendo Switch 2 is essentially, that's it. It doesn't come apart, doesn't detach, it's just one big, almost silicone, I guess is the best way to put it, unit itself, which might be good for some people, not so great for others. The other cool thing about this case as well is it also has a detachable face cover for the Switch 2, so you can put this in like a travel bag and essentially keep your Nintendo Switch 2 protected when you have it, you know, bringing it on a trip or something, or putting it in your carry-on bag or your backpack. But one thing I do want to highlight is, well, this faceplate is very durable and it feels like it could take a bit of an impact if it needed to. I'm not so sure I'd be as comfortable with the silicone backing of my Nintendo Switch 2, and unfortunately I'm not made of money, so I didn't want to stress test this and drop it on the floor and see what happens. But I'm not sure that this would take as big of a beating as some of the other alternative cases that are on the market, which for some people might be a concern, for others not so much. Now, with that being said, would I be comfortable putting this into a travel case? Probably, but do I have another case like the Koops P2 that I'd probably be a bit more comfortable doing that with? For sure. So just something to consider when you're looking at this case and looking at your needs for the Switch 2. Now, what I do want to highlight, however, that I really do like about this case is I like the actual handles on the back that correspond with the Joy-Cons, and I also like how they actually feel. There's a nice like soft rubber feeling to them, and so I've been testing this over the past week or so between my house and basically being gone for work, and I like how it feels. I think it feels actually quite comfortable. It feels good, and as it stands, I actually much prefer this over even the Koops P2's handles that they have on that device as well. So ultimately, I really like how this feels, and I like how form factor fitting this case is. And what I mean by that is, you can also keep this case on full time essentially, and it will still dock with your Nintendo Switch 2. It's a little tight, but it will dock, and I've tested it, and I've also been able to use my Switch 2 docked with this case on. So ultimately, as far as the features of this go, I quite like this case. And one thing I heavily want to highlight as well is Cabletech's case, or this model of their case, is designed to be more of a budget-friendly option. So you can get it I looked it up. It's like American, it's like 16 bucks. Canadian, it's like 22 bucks or something. So it's basically a $20 case Canadian, which in my opinion is relatively affordable if you want a durable enough case for your Nintendo Switch 2. Now, of course, there's gonna be a couple things that you're not gonna get, like the detachable Joy-Con portions. I also don't feel like the casing itself is as durable as some of the other alternatives on the market. But if you want something cheap and you wanna be able to throw this in like a travel or carry-on bag or a backpack, I think this is gonna serve most of the purposes for most gamers.